Good afternoon, brothers, sisters, and gender normal sisters. It's time for what's going to become a new thing, our Blender Workshop Afternoons. With me, your host, Olaf. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, I've decided I want to really focus on doing more stuff in Blender, and rather than just sitting here at my computer doing it all by myself, I'm going to do it on stream. So all kinds of testing things out, seeing if we can make stuff and everything like that. So today we're going to work on kind of look at a strange one. It's called subsurface or subdividing the surface or subdivision surface modifier. It's really a unique way of making things that are more organic and more flowing than the normal blocks and everything that everybody's used to. So, with that said, let's go ahead and hop over to Blender and see what we've got. So, we've got our normal Blender thing, just empty space, you know, nothing there. What we're going to do is we are going to add in a cube. And we're going to come over to our modifiers. We're going to come to generate and subdivision surface. Now what this does is this takes each face and divides it. And if we come in here to face, you can kind of see how you can see where the actual cube is and what this modifier is doing is it's dividing each face into 4 faces and kind of averaging everything out into more of a spherical type thing. Now, if we increase our viewport levels, so now it's taken each of those 4 faces and divided them into 4 more faces, making it a much smoother thing. If we go up to 3, we've got a pretty smooth, we actually have a pretty smooth thing. Now, one of the things we do want to do is we want to hop out here into our object mode. We want to come up to object and we want to say shade auto smooth. So now the shading is smooth, but you can still kind of see these harsh corners here. So we'll probably want to bump it up one more to a level 4. That is what is usually what is known as a quad sphere. So we now have a pretty much a normal sphere. It's a little bit blocky. It is a little bit blocky, but that's just kind of what a quad sphere is. But it is a sphere literally made up of quads. It's the same type thing as if you add in just a quad sphere. Wait a second. Nope, we want to say, okay, add in a quad sphere. And if you come down here, you know, it's subdivision 4, it's shaded smooth, it's aligned the rotation and everything. So this one is actually, like, if you use machine tools, a quad sphere, their quad sphere looks a lot better. But you can't manipulate it the same way as you can a one that you create yourself. Because this is already has the the subdivision surface modifier already applied, but we don't want that. So we're gonna go ahead and delete that, because what we want to do is we want to make what was in the thumbnail. We want to make like this steel bar that is then melts at the bottom into a glob of molten metal. And for that, we really need this. We really need it like this. So we're going to go ahead and scale this up a ways. And now we're going to see the really fun part of the Sub-D workflow. So we're going to inset this one. Now, if we inset this, you see how as we add in edges and stuff, it changes this. It really changes how this looks. So, for example, if we were to take these edges and bevel them with just a chamfer, just a one segment bevel, we're smoothing it out. If we increase that, then it creates more of a more hard edge. Let's go ahead and do that again. And if we keep going up, it keeps getting a harder and harder edge. So what we want to do is we want this to basically kind of come in. We're going to grab it on the Z so that it's kind of up a bit, and then we're going to hit E to extrude that up. And now you see what we're getting here is this. Select those edges. So we want to scale these edges in. If we hit Shift Z, we can scale them in on everything but there. Let's see, we can kind of adjust this down a bit. You might want to take these faces, scale. We want them, you know, we want this really in quite a bit, because it should be just a really small thing coming down into this blob. So there's our drip. Now, logic would dictate that you would start with something big like the actual bar and then go down. When you're working with Sub-D, you actually want to go do it in reverse, because otherwise you're going to be trying to figure out how to calculate out all of these faces and how many faces you need in order to come down into the blob and stuff like that, and it's a pain. So with this, we want to extrude this one again, and we're going to want to scale that face up a ways. So we're going to want to take it to about, well, I think probably about here should be good. So we're going to take that up to 22. Now it looked now we kind of have this drop coming from a circle, but we were going to want it a square. We'll get to that. But first we need to model out the actual bar itself. So we're going to extrude this guy up here. Now this face, we want to say scale it in a bit because that a proper metal ingot should be should have this. It shouldn't be just a straight bar. It angles up, and for this particular bar, we're gonna actually have an indent. So we're gonna want to hit I to inset. Bring that out to about here, and then we're going to hit E to extrude this back. We're going to take it back to about there. Now this looks just horrendous. This looks nothing like an ingot. And that's not terribly surprising based on what it's doing, is it's still calculating out everything out as basically as a sphere. So we're going to say edges, we're going to say our X-ray view, we're going to take basically all of the edges except for basically all of the edges except for where it drips down. So we're going to take all of these and we're going to say bevel you guys. So now we have the actual ingot, but it's kind of looking wonky. So we're gonna take these faces and we're going to put them in. So now if we look at it, now we have an actual ingot that is, yeah, it's looking like a proper ingot that's just somehow melting without heat or anything like that. Now looking at this, I actually want to kind of go back to here. So I want to scale it in on the X, a little bit less on the Z. And I actually want to grab it on the Y and kind of move it in a bit. So we're moving it in by, we'll move it in on the Y by 2. So we'll grab this one by 2 negatives so that we're kind of smushing it down a bit. Now we're going to take this one, we're going to inset it again. We're going to inset it to about there. We're going to extrude it back to about here. And we're going to take all of these faces. And basically, we're going to take everything but these bottom faces, because we do not want to affect the drip. So now we're going to take that. We're going to say bevel these guys, and we're just going to bevel them in just a little bit, basically just to create hard edges for it to solidify. So now we've got a really nice looking ingot. You know what? I don't think we want as many. I don't think we need as many. I think 2 will be just fine. So see, now we've still got, I mean, they're still slightly beveled edges, but they're more hard edges. They're not as soft, rounded edges. They're much harder, like a normal, like solid brick of steel would be. That's what we're going for. So now, so yeah, this is what first kind of got me going as far as learning a bit more about Subd's workflow, is this idea of a steel bar that's just dripping, that's somehow melting. So now we need to work on shading it. Now let me... So I'm going to look up the steel hex code is... Okay, so the color for steel is actually 71797E. So that is the proper color of steel. Now we want to make it metallic. And I do want a variation on the roughness. So like a good roughness for that would be like maybe a 0.3. Maybe 0.35. 0.35, I like the way 0.35 looks. And you can kind of see how that roughness is changing down here. If we go into the full rendered view, you can kind of see how this is going. I do want to actually take this and say grab that on the Z so that it's more spherical. That'll work. Okay. So I do want a noise. I do want to do a noise texture for the roughness. And we're going to go ahead and Control T to get some to base this off of the actual object itself. We're going to add in a color ramp. Put the factor in there. And we're going to just look at this directly. So obviously the size is way, way, way too... It's way too fine. So we're going to take this down to... I'm thinking... a 0.4 or 0.5 might work. I think 0.5 might work. Now we can increase the detail all the way up so that it's very, very detailed, but we want to take the roughness down so that it's kind of... We want a lot of detail. Oh, some detail maybe, but... And then we want it kind of... We want it very subtle. So the dark spots we want at... So the dark spots are going to be kind of our rougher patches. So if we're doing what did we have that set to? What did we have our roughness set to? 0.35. So, okay, so we're going to say that's actually going to be 0.5. And this is going to be 0.35. And we're going to pump that into the roughness. So that when we come here, we've kind of got this slight roughness. Now, I think that's the contrast is a bit too much. We want it... We're just going to go ahead and leave it all the way out here. Maybe we want bring in the roughness on here a bit so that it's a bit more patchy. And we might want to bump this down to, say, 0.4. So if this is just like a 0.5 difference, which really isn't showing much, so maybe 0.45, so that we get a little bit of difference as far as the roughness. Maybe bring this up just a little bit so that it's a little bit more contrast to it. So you're actually seeing some of that variation in the smoothness and the roughness. Let's put that at a 0.25. So there we go. So now, when the light's directly on it, you're not really seeing much in the way of roughness, but when the light is just kind of like, just bouncing off of it a little bit, you're seeing that roughness. Now, of course, we're not going to want it in the melted part. We don't want it in the melted, as far as the melted part, because the melted part should be, like, almost mirror-like. The other thing is with the IOR, or the index of refraction, 2.5 is the proper index of refraction for steel. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to go ahead and split this and make this a little bit bigger. So we're going to take this setup here. We're going to say U to put it up to there. And we're going to take this and duplicate it. And we're going to take our roughness down to 0. So now if we put that in there, now we have this perfectly mirrored, perfectly liquid type metal. And that's what we want. Well, that's what we want for the melted part. So now we need to find a way of balancing the two. So what we're going to do is we are going to take... I'm not sure if it would be better to take the texture, or we might actually want to take the geometry node here. And we're going to take another color ramp. And we're going to take our mapping node here. And we're going to say, based on the position, we're going to say, take that into the color ramp. And we're going to bring that there. So you can kind of see where it is. If we say U.52, crunch U up to 0.5. So now we have a hard line there. So we want to bring that. So you see, as we're rotating the coordinates around, it's changing that a little bit. So take that to -45, that to -45, and not quite there. Maybe a 55. And let's really zoom in here so that we're getting this just right. So our Y is... our Z needs to come up a bit, come down a bit more. So maybe actually -45 on the X. So now if you look at it, we've got it perfectly there. That's perfect. That's just what we want. We want that. We want it to kind of gradually go from one shader to the other. But it's set too low, so we're gonna use the Z coordinates, the Z location, to move that up. And we're gonna say, widen these out so that there we go. That's got it a good gradual thing. So we want it basically, so if you can see it, it's just now starting to go from one to the other. It's the bottom of this ingot is kind of a grayish, but we want it just starting right about there, I think. So it's really starting right about here, right at the point where it's starting to melt and then turns into this liquid. So now we need to combine these two together using this as the factor. So we've got two different shaders. We've got them set up properly. We're going to use a mix shader. And we're going to try it like this. And then we're going to say surface to there. So, okay, that's backwards. So we actually want, just to keep everything nice and neat, we're going to say, bring these around. So we're going to say U on the bottom. We're going to say the liquid one needs to go into the top. And that should make it so that, yes. So now you can really see what's going on here with this. And we may want to move that down a bit more so that it's right about there, I think. Yes. So now you can see how you have this rougher metal, but then as it drips down, it's becoming more liquid. And because we have not applied the subdivision surface, we can still come into these faces and adjust these a bit. So, like, we can grab this down, we can make this more of a elongated blob. We can say grab all of these, and we can say scale this up so that it's more of a blob, bring it down. And because everything is set up based on the position, it's not really affecting that as much, so we can really just kind of like really go hog wild with this. There should be a... Okay, so we want to take this set of edges here, and we can actually scale these edges up so that it's a thicker string or a narrower string. But that's kind of what we're going for. So, if we say scale you down, now because we're scaling it down, we are changing the position of it. So we're going to have to change that a bit. Let's grab our camera, zoom it out, bring it up here. But yeah, see, because we've changed the position of it all, that position is that Z position is no longer where it needs to be. So we actually need to bring that closer to here. And we may need to fiddle with, may need to make it more contrasted. So we're going to bring you up by 0.3. We're going to bring you down by 0.3. And we want to bring this to right about there, I think. So again, it is really kind of transitioning from this solid block down into a super shiny metal. So if we go ahead and we go ahead and do a render. You can really see how it's coming from this block, this solid block, down to a blob, basically. There are a few shading issues as far as the bevel, it looks like. Which so kind of like these faces here, these faces here should be solid faces. They should be smooth faces. So we're going to take this and we're going to say shade that flat. So yeah, that is a little wonky. Let's try something here. Let's try coming into weighted normals. All right, let's. You know what? Let's take this and this, and we're going to say mark those as sharp. So this is probably a point where we should have done something a bit different when we did the bevel. Honestly, we probably should. I forgot to change change one of the bevels. Basically, you want to change the miter outer to an arch. And that would have, well, see that, there we go. That kind of fixes it a little bit. Problem is that that affects everything. So yeah. And I don't know if we can go back to the undo to the point of... No, we can't go back to where we changed where we added the bevel. Let's see here. What happens if we... Well, let's clear those edges. Let's clear those sharps. What happens if we say edge mark you as sharp? Or because it's saying use creases, what if we say edge crease that? I'm not really sure what the edge crease necessarily does. So see, that's going to make that really sharp. I mean, it does kind of fix the problem a bit. If we say edge crease U. No, that's not really going to fix it. Okay, so that's just a matter of, hey, we should have done this. We should have done something a little bit different. We should have made sure that the miter outers were set proper. Now I think. Now with mesh tools, no, not mesh tools. This is mesh machine. If we say unbevel that. Wait, no, I think we need to select the faces. I think we need to select these faces. And we should be able to say unbevel. No, cyclical. Oh, okay. Fuck it. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of we kind of boned ourselves a little bit as far as this goes. I mean, we could go through, we could basically redo everything, but that's not really, that's not really desirable. So, yeah. But, I mean, it's not horrible. It doesn't look horrible. It does look a bit wonky as far as those faces, yeah. But again, it's Now, once we apply this, then we have this ungodly mess of faces. Because you're subdividing all those faces, it becomes it becomes a big old fucking mess. To put it bluntly. So that's some of the fun stuff that you can do with subsurface or subdivision surface. Now here we're gonna try something else. We're actually gonna add in a plane. And one of the other ways you can, so we're going to do plane, we're going to do subsurface, we're going to set it up to 4. So we've kind of turned it into something resembling a circle. But we're going to kind of do some really funky stuff here. So we're going to add in we're going to add in a loop cut there. Now we're going to take these 2 edges and we're going to say grab that on there. So now we're kind of bending it around. And if we add in a solidify modifier, now we can say, oh, hey, now we're starting to get something. Now we're starting to get something kind of interesting. Again, if we come in here and we say shade auto, select that, shade auto smooth. So now we're kind of starting to get this something a bit extra here. And we don't actually need to do a let's scale this on the X a bit. Let's grab this one on the Y a bit, extend it out. Now if we take all of these outer edges, and instead of just doing a solidify, we're going to actually extrude down on the Z. And we're going to go ahead and fill that. And we're going to scale that on the Z to 0. And we're going to grab it much further down. And we're also going to bevel that edge a bit. So now, if you look, we're kind of starting to get almost kind of like a mouse. I want to say before we fill that, I want to take these 2 vertices here. And I want to join those. Or we're going to fill those. Sorry, we're going to fill those. So now we're going to fill that and scale that on the Z to 0. So we're going to take this face. Oh, sorry, face. I'm going to scale you on the X, bring you in. This one also needs to scale in a bit, but not as much. So you can see what the boxy version of it looks like. And then again, we can say we're going to bevel you out just a bit. We don't want it really solid, but now we kind of sort of have a computer mouse here. All right, maybe actually joining that up was a bad idea. What are you? Oh, there we go. Okay. So yeah, we're just gonna fill that, grab that on the Z, scale that on the Z down to 0. take this one, scale you one on the X there, scale this one on the X a little bit less. We're going to say, no, select that face. We're going to say bevel you just a bit there. And like I said, now we have kind of the base, very, very basic computer mouse. That might actually need to kind of come out a bit more. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with that. A lot of stuff that you can do with subsurface subdivision surface modifier. It is a very, very powerful thing. Now, if you want to make something really just wild and wacky and stuff like that, you can do, again, come in here, say add a mesh to the add a plane, add the subdivision surface modifier, again, crank it up to a 4. Now we're going to say start taking edges, and we're just going to extrude the edge out on the Y and grab this one on the Z. And we're going to say take this one and we're going to extrude it out on the X. So now we're kind of like adding in wings almost. You can just like add little touches here and say, hey, we're going to bring you down. We're going to bring you over. Now, maybe instead of doing that, we're going to say grab you. Well, we're going to say grab both of these and we're going to bring these down. And we're starting to see some of the edges and stuff, so we're going to make sure to shade auto smooth. Now we want to take all of, I want to take all of these and I want to say grab you on the Y. Now I want to say extrude you on the Y. And I want to extrude you on the Z. So now it's kind of got a tail and stuff like that. If we say grab you on the Y, bring you out here. And then if we say, let's add in a solidify modifier. And we're going to make it, we're going to put that up. We're going to say even thickness. So now we've kind of got this, something that would be very, very difficult to model. This would be very difficult to model out, something like this, some strange concoction like this. It would be very difficult to model this without doing something like this, without doing a subsurface. Now, if we want to make this side a little bit different, we could say fill that in. Or maybe if we say J to join, no? So if we just say fill that in, now we've got this one side that's this a solid curve. One side that's kind of got this almost like a hole punched out of it. And speaking of holes, if we say come in here and we want to say inset U. And now if we say delete that face, well, now we've got a hole in the middle. And we can change that, we can kind of change that hole a little bit if we say grab this on the X. Grab this on the, or on the Y rather, grab that on the Y. Now we've got a perfectly circular hole. And if we say grab these edges and we say grab you on the Z, so now this is coming up. Almost kind of like a blowhole. I mean, we're almost kind of like modeling a strange, a very, very strange, whale or dolphin or something. Like, you know, there's so many possibilities with subsurface stuff. And again, we can extend this out even more. And now we've got, well, let's extrude this out, but keep it on, but lock it to the Y. So now this is coming out even more. And if we want to say extrude on the Z, so now we have this almost hook type thing. And again, you look at what the actual geometry is that we're working with, and it's very simplistic. It's we're really just working with planes here. But because of the power of the subdivision surface modifier combined with the solidify modifier, and we can change all of this stuff, and we can change so much more of it. So if we want to say, let's say we want this. Let's say we want to take, so we've got that, we want a bend in this. So we're going to bring this one in. So now that's bent around. And we could actually take these and grab these on the Y and make it even more pronounced. And if we want to say, take this vertex and bring it down. Well, let's bring it down on there, but we're going to hit C to constrain it to that angle. And we're just going to bring it straight up. So now we've got, I don't even know what the hell this would be. But we can bring it around, swing it around. We'll go ahead and just slap on that first material. We're going to isolate it from everything else. And we're just going to have it be this steel. So now if we say scale that down, say grab this. So if we look at that, this looks like, this really does have the look of like a what's the term I want to, what's the term I'm looking for here? It really kind of has this look of a forged piece of metal, like something that is uniquely shaped and like poured into a mold that's just boom. So it's, you know, we've got these lovely thing, all this lovely stuff. Let's go ahead and go into the rendered view here. But it looks smooth. It looks almost organic, but at the same time metallic. So if we actually just let's just for shits and giggles, let's go ahead and make it perfectly. So now, see, now you have this perfectly metallic type thing. Let's go ahead and brighten it up a bit so that it's not so dark and dingy, more like chrome. So yeah, you have this weird almost organic living metal type look. It is a really weird piece. It's really bizarre, but this is the type of thing that's really fun and really interesting to deal with, because it is just, you know, again, if you break it down to 3, yeah, 3 is gonna look like crap. Now you can go up. You can keep going up as much as you want, but after a certain point, there's no reason to keep going up. Like from 4 to 5, I mean, there is a little bit of jaggedness here, so it's not quite as smooth. Up to 5, now it's a lot smoother. It's got a lot more it's putting a lot more geometry into it. If you go up to 6, you get a little bit smoother, but it's not really affecting it as much. But yeah, you can make all kinds of weird, wild stuff. And one of the things that I've seen people use the Subd workflow for is making making pistol grips. It is excellent as far as making pistol grips. For example, let's just go ahead and bring you over here. We're going to go ahead and bring in another cube. We're going to say the same thing. We're going to say subdivision. We're going to give it 5. We're going to say object shade auto smooth. Now we're going to come in here. We're going to say scale on the Z. Scale on the X a bit. And see, we're going to go ahead and throw in a couple loop cuts here. We're going to scale those out so that they're about like that. Then we're going to throw in a ring cut here to really solidify that. And down here, we don't want it as close to the bottom. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to add in several loop cuts here. And we're going to take this one, and this one. And we're going to grab those on the X and pull them back. So now all of a sudden you've got finger grips. If we say bevel those a bit more. And again, we're going to say there. So now you see we've kind of got this. Like I said, it's one of those things where, you know what? Let's grab these faces and we're actually going to scale them in on the Y so that it's not as severe. So that gets to be a bit more rounded. But we're going to take these back ones and we're going to scale them on the Y so that it is a bit more solid on the back end. Now, it's, by no means is this perfect, but that gives you an idea of what you can do with the Subd workflow. You can make it's great for making pistol grips. It is absolutely fantastic for making pistol grips. If you don't want the individual fingers, we can just say, we're just going to grab these faces here, and we're going to grab that on the X. You know what? Maybe not those top ones. So grab that on the X. So now you have more of a sci-fi type pistol grip where, or something where it's like, it's not quite a pistol grip. It's not quite a pistol grip. We can make it a bit more dramatic and a bit more severe. But you have something where it's, maybe narrow it down a bit. So now you have something like a multi-tool grip or something like that. And if we wanted to, we could say we're going to take you guys and we're going to grab you on the X. Well, actually, you know what? We're going to say take these top ones. We're going to use our we're going to use our proportional editing, and we're going to say bring you a bit more forward. So now we've got an angular grip. This would be something more along the lines of, say, like one of the Klingon blasters or something like that. But you can do a lot of stuff with it, and it is just it's a really fun and interesting way of doing stuff, of kind of like playing around with this various different stuff, and everything like that. So yeah, just kind of a weird wonky thing. So if we go ahead and do an example there. So yeah, see, you've got this unique pistol grip. It's smoothed out. Well, oh, right. Okay, so we forgot to change the rendered view. So now if we take it there, you see you've got this really smooth looking grip that is just very unique. And it took no time at all to model it. It took very little time to model that out and get it, you know. We might want to say, you know, turn off the proportional editing and say, like, take that back a bit so that this is more of a keeping more in line with everything. That it's a bit more straight lined in the back. But yeah, that's just some of the fun little stuff that you can do with the Subdivision Surface modifier. It is absolutely a wonderful tool. It is one that is very, very, very much should be part of your workflow, part of your knowledge. Just because it can really make some unique and some beautiful designs without a whole lot of work and without a whole lot of effort and pushing and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to end for today. That's just a, like I said, that is just a really good way of understanding and helping to understand various different things. Yeah, I mean the Subd workflow is very important to learn. It can make your life a whole lot easier when you're trying to organize stuff that is more fluid, more fluid, more rounded, more organic looking, rather than just, you know, hard corners and stuff like that. Anyway, as always, thank you guys very much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you're new here, don't forget to press the subscribe button. I'm gonna be trying to do these multiple times a week, if not like 5 days, 5-6 days a week, something like that. We'll see how that goes. If you want to be kept up to date of when we go live and stuff like that, make sure to ring the bell, but also check out the social media links down below, the Facebook page, the Twitter account, the Tumblr account, and the permanent invite for our Discord server. All that so that you can stay tuned for more Ramolov Productions. Cheerio!